Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create the close-fitting sleeve using your semi-fitted sleeve as a template. If you haven't created your semi-fitted sleeve, then please take a look at the courses page and do so now. If you have already created it, then simply open up your semi-fitted sleeve block, which is this one. It should look something a little bit like this. Perfect. And as I said, I'm going to show you how to create a much more close-fitting sleeve. Simply all we're doing is taking 1.25 centimeters off this edge, and this edge. So that would be sorry, that would be 2.5 centimeters in total. And we're also going to be removing 1 centimeter from the center section as well. So we're doing quite a big reduction here. Okay, so to start off with, it's pretty simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cut tool or my scissor tool. Where is it? Here we go. So let's go to our scissors, and I'm going to cut this elbow just here, just here. I'm also going to cut at the cuff on both sides. I'm going to leave these two joined just here, and I'll show why in a minute. So we're going to move this whole section, so let's click and drag. And let's also, if you hold down the shift key and then simply click to select that other point, you see those two are now blue, they're now selected. If it's white, it's not selected. That means only these 2 points will move. Next, to move these to the right by 1.25, I'm going to hit my enter key, and I'm going to hit 1.25. So 1.25 to the right. You can preview that as well. There we go, lovely. Don't worry if your notches are not following with you. I'll show you how to amend those in a minute. So let's just click OK. Perfect. Let's also do the same for the other side. So I'm going to drag and select for that 1 point using my small selection tool. And I'm also going to hold down the shift key and select that one little point down the bottom using my small selection tool. See, these 2 points are the only ones that have been selected. Then I'm going to hit my move. I'm going to hit the enter key on my keyboard to bring up the move dialog. And we're going to go minus 1.25. Once again, minus moves to the left, and positive or plus 1.25 moves to the right. So let's just preview that, and as you can see, the whole piece has moved, which is lovely. So let's just click OK. So as you can see, we've now removed 1.25 centimeters all the way along this edge and all the way along this edge as well. All that's left is simply this piece to do as well. So let's just go to our big selection tool. Okay, sorry about that. So to move this piece, simply click on the line, and then let's zoom in. Click on the line, and then with holding down your shift key and the small selection tool, just click that point and click the bottom point. You see how that one's blue, that one's white. That just makes sure they're both selected, and then hit your enter key. I'm going to go 1.25 because we're going to the right. Click, and you can even see the preview. Click OK to move. Lovely. Okay, so we've now taken 1.25 off the entire side of each side of our arm block or our sleeve block. Next, we're going to pull in our notch marks. Okay, and it's really simple. We're just going to go directly across. So simply select both these points. Small selection tool, just select over both of them. Make sure all the points are blue, and then simply you can now move them around. If you hold down the shift key, they will lock in a horizontal manner. So simply just drag them straight across, horizontally across. Perfect. Same with this one. Select it and then just click, hold down shift and drag it until it meets that line. Let me just close this down. Okay. Wonderful. So those are our notches now in the correct position. Next, I'm going to then secure this block because it's a bit messy. In other words, these lines aren't all matching, and so we want to kind of clean this block up a little bit. So let's go down. Let's use our small selection tool. It's going to click and drag that point until it meets our new, let's say, underarm line. Same with the other side. Click and drag. Also, I'm just going to, with my small selection tool, click and drag over to select those 2 points. Right click and join. On the opposite side, select or click and drag to select those 2 points and then join. Okay, and that simply has joined those 2 lines or all of those lines together. When it comes to our elbow, I'm simply just going to extend that line through that point. Okay, so I'm not going directly up from it because that we would lose a bit of seam there. I'm going to go directly up, click and drag directly up through that line. Same with the elbow. I'm just going to click and drag through that line. Wonderful. Once I've clicked and dragged through the line, I'm then going to click on that point again with my small selection tool and then drag it back until it locks to that intersection line. Same again, click and drag, click and drag. Ah, we've got this one selected. Let's just object lock that selection so it's not going to get in the way. There we go. Click and then drag into position. Once again, select over both those 2 points, right click, join. Same thing here, select over both those points, right click, join. Lovely. So now you can see we're getting a much cleaner block, yeah? Perfect. So that's the entirety of our block, nicely neat and cleaned up. Let's get a bit more of a stroke on that so you can see it. Okay, next we're going to remove 1 centimeter in total from this center seam, so to bring these seams in even more. So this is even simpler. First of all, let's just move these lines in a bit. Let's just move the elbow in to keep it nice and clean. Okay, so I'm going to completely remove this line here, just delete it. Okay, it's our existing guideline. It's a dashed guideline. Next, I'm going to go to, let's get a blue color for my line. So it's selecting a blue line color. I'm going to go to my line tool, and I'm then going to draw a line all the way through that block, all the way to the very, very bottom. Okay, and just to make sure it's exactly through the center, let's just select that line, and let's just nudge it with my arrow keys, left and right, up and down, just to make sure it's in the center, which it is. Also, if it is dashed, then let's just remove that dashed line. Okay, we're going to turn this into an object so we can use Pathfinder. If you're not familiar with Pathfinder or what I'm talking about, then we have a tutorial on that. I suggest you going back and having a look at the overview of how to use Adobe Illustrator for pattern cutting. In the meantime, let's recap. So I've simply drawn a line all the way through this block. There you go, perfect. Right through the center. I'm then going to select that line. As you can see, it's a line. I'm then going to go Object and Expand. And make sure Fill and Stroke are both ticked. Click OK. And now, as you can see, it's actually an object. It's not one line. It's actually a filled object. Okay? And we're going to use this, like scissors, to cut our block in half. Okay? So using Pathfinder, I'm going to simply select the block. Okay. First of all, our block is actually grouped, so this is a problem. So first, I need to ungroup my block. Let's just go Object and then Ungroup. That allows me to edit individual elements within my block. Perfect. So the block is unselected or ungrouped. I'm now going to select both that line I've drawn through the block and obviously the block itself. I'm going to go to Pathfinder. If you can't see Pathfinder in this pane here, then you can simply go to Window and then Pathfinder, and it should appear. Next, I'm going to use the minus front. So let's just click. And now what's that done is it's used that blue line to cut that pattern directly down the center. Okay, let's click on that. But at the moment they're grouped. Okay, so let's just go Object, Ungroup. Whenever you cut something with Pathfinder, for some reason it always groups those objects. And you see now we have 2 completely separate blocks, which is great. So we're now going to overlap these 2 pieces through this center line. First of all, I'm just going to make sure my notches come with me, because these are very important when it comes to matching your sleeve with your armhole, or your sleeve head with your armhole. So with my big selection tool, I'm just going to select, so that whole block on those notches are together. I'm then going to go Object and then group them, which means now when I move them around, they're all grouped together. Lovely. I'm going to do exactly the same on the other side. Let's just get that notch, get the block, and let's go Object and then Group. Perfect. Okay, we're now ready to overlap these pieces. Now, I'm going to select this side, and I'm going to hit my Move dialog box, and I'm going to go to the right by 0.5 cm horizontally. Let's just do the preview. You see it's overlapping already. Now the reason why I haven't done 1 whole centimeter is because we're going to lose that little top notch. Okay, if I do 0.5 this side and then 0.5 on the other side, that point will still remain in the center. So let's just go OK, and as you can see, our block has now moved over. Same with this side. I'm going to hit my Enter key to bring up the Move dialog box. Let's take off the preview, and I'm now this time going to do minus 0.5. Let's hit the preview, and as you can see, we have moved, or we have closed that block by 1 centimeter, or removed 1 centimeter from the center of that block, and yet we still have that top notch in place. Let's just click OK. Brilliant. Okay, so now we've removed that excess amount, so the block is slightly smaller. Next, I'm going to simply, with my small selection tool this time, I'm just going to select these two blocks, and now I'm going to use a different tool, which is Unite. So I'm now going to blend or merge these together so they become one. There you go. As you can see, the block has now become one, and it still has that 1 cm removed from it. However, you have a few little sort of like glitchy bits up here. So first of all, we're just going to go to your delete anchor point tool, delete this point, delete, delete. Okay, until we have a nice, smooth sleeve head. Also, let's have a look down the bottom. Okay, once again, we have a bit of an issue here, so let's just go to the delete anchor point and delete. And that's a lovely, nice, smooth curve. Okay, great. So this is now a pretty much finished off, close-fitting sleeve. However, you can still, if you wish, you can have the dart in the elbow if you want to, or if you'd like to change it, you can always actually create a dart down here. It depends what kind of opening you're looking for. I personally prefer the dart at the elbow. However, let's just change it. So once again, I'm going to draw my cut line. So a blue line, and we're going to be roughly parallel to this edge here, okay? I'm then going to select that line, I'm going to object, I'm going to expand it, so I turn it into an object, fill and stroke, okay? And I'm then, with my small selection tool, let's just select that line and the block, and then I'm going to minus front. Okay, I'm then going to, with my big selection tool, select the block, object, ungroup, and now, as you can see, we have this piece separate. I'm then going to rotate this dart closed, so I'm opening the dart. I'm opening the dart at the cuff. Okay, so we have now got a seam or a dart at the cuff. Next, I need to smooth out this line here. Okay, very, very simple. I'm just going to draw. Let's go for blue. Okay, let's get my pen tool. I'm just going to click, and then going to go back, click, hold, get my convert anchor point tool. I'm going to click and drag until that point meets the elbow. Same with the opposite side till it meets the elbow. This is going to be my new line. Okay, so now I can simply remove some of these pieces. So first of all, let's cut here. Okay, let's also cut at the base because we essentially don't want this line here. Let's just delete that. Let's also select this line, cut here, and then cut here. To go back, select that line, and delete. Okay, so now you can see we have our outline. Next, I'm just going to select those 2 points, right click, join. Once again down here, select those 2 points, right click, join. Select those 2 points, right click, join. Perfect. So this is now our block. Let's just make that black again. So as you can see, we've now moved the dart down to the cuff line. Okay, so you have 2 different choices here. However, this is quite a long dart line, and it's just unnecessary. So we're going to reduce it to roughly about 4 centimeters from that point. Okay, so our dart will be about here. Easiest way to do this, I'm simply going to get my line tool. I'm going to draw a line, click and hold from this point to this point. And as you see, I'm not let go yet, and you can see it's 9.63 centimeters. So that is the distance from that point to that point. I want to find halfway, or the distance of half. I want to find the point that's halfway between those 2 points. So 9.63. Let's just delete that line. Let's then click, and as you can see, we have our line length, 9.63. I'm then going to divide that by 2, which gives me 4.82 with the same rotation. Click OK, and then from this point, see that's my halfway point. I'm then going to get my line tool. I'm going to click and drag up until I meet that point. And so now we want to be about 4 centimeters along this line down from that dart edge or that dart point. Okay, so let's just create a point like so. I'm just going to drag it to that point. I'm then going to hit my dialog box or my move dialog box. We're using the enter key. I'm then going to hit 0 for horizontal, and we're going to go 4 down. And as you can see the preview, actually no, that's wrong. Let's make that 5. It's still quite long. Let's preview. 5 centimeters, that's perfect. So let's just click OK. So I've now found my point to where my new dart is going to be placed. Okay, so this line here simply goes down to there. We've got a few additional points in play, but that's fine. Now the reason why I drew this line and found the halfway point is because with a dart, if you're moving the dart point, it should always be along the line that is, let's say, in the middle of the two dart legs. Okay, it's very, very important. If that was slightly off, then the dart, you see, would be out of kilter, which would make this edge longer than this edge. So you always find the middle of a dart. Between those 2 points, find the middle, draw a line up through the dart point, and then you can move your dart out, or your dart point out. Okay? Perfect. I hope this is making sense. If not, please feel free, comment, ask me any questions at all. I can go slower, I can revisit work. Please just let me know. I'm more than happy to help. So, we now have our finished close-fitting sleeve with the dart which is on the actual cuff line. If you're going to be producing this block, or if you're going to be actually, if you're going to be toiling this, obviously you will. This block actually, because it's so close-fitting, needs to be cut on the bias. Now, I'm hoping you're aware of what a bias is. This block originally comes with a grain line that goes directly down the center. So let's put some arrows on that. Arrow, arrow. However, this block, because it's so fitted, now must be cut on the bias. Okay, so all you need to do is, for your reference, go to your line tool, click and drag, hold down the shift key, and it will lock it to the 45-degree axis. This is your new grain line. And then all you do is simply grab your arrowheads, click, arrows, and now you can get rid of your existing grain. Okay, so when you cut it, this must be your grain line. And that will give you a little bit of extra ease and stretch when it comes to actually creating this block, or this sleeve block. Before we finish up, there's one last thing that we have to do, and this applies to both blocks when it comes to the elbow dart or the cuff dart, is we now, because we removed 1.25 from this edge and this edge, we now have to do the same from our actual bodice block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and open up my bodice. Let's go to, so obviously I've got a few here, but let's go to basic bodice block. Click open. Obviously you have to make sure that it fits your sleeve block. Of course, all of mine do. I'm using the same profile size. Let's just copy these. Let's then just make a much larger artboard. To do that, let's go Edit, Document Setup, Edit Artboard, click and drag, paste in my blocks, and next we're simply going to position the two blocks together where the underarm meets. There we go. Let's just zoom in. Remember, with the arrow keys we can nudge it just to move it into the correct position. Also, we want to make sure the rotation's correct. We want to make sure these two, let's say, seams meet up. So go to your rotation point, click, drag out, there we go, and as you can see that fits perfectly. Lovely. Okay, so next we are going to be raising the arm side by 1.5. So very, very simple. First of all, let's get a ruler. We want to make sure that this is actually perpendicular. Let's go to View, Rulers, Show Rulers. Lovely. Let's just click and drag from the side and drag a ruler out. Okay, so as you can see, this side seam is not exactly vertical. Okay, so this ruler is just here for a guide. And if we right click, we can go Lock Guides. That way we can't select it anymore. I'm then going to, with my big selection tool, select the entirety of the block. I'm then going to go to my rotation tool and then click on that point to rotate, and then there we go. So that block is now, it's perfect. Okay. In other words, the side seam is now perfectly vertical, so we can now raise this by 1.5. We can now get rid of our guide. So I'm going to unlock that guide, right click, unlock the guide, and then let's just delete it. I'm then going to draw a point. So let's go to blue line color. Let's just draw a point. There we go. I'm going to move it to our underarm. I'm then going to hit my move, or hit the enter key on my keyboard to move that point. And we're then going to go vertically up by 1.5. So minus 1.5 up. You can preview that. Perfect. Let's click OK. So next, we need to redraw this armhole, okay? And we're doing this from these points. So simply go to your pen tool, make sure you have a nice blue selected, click on the middle of your, let's say, first notch, and let's click on the center of that point, and then the center of our front notch. Lovely. Next, we're going to go to our Convert Anchor Point tool, and we're just going to click and drag, okay? There we go. And we're just simply going to drag these out until it looks very, very similar to the lines that we have beneath us, okay? So we're just almost like copying, if that makes sense. And so this is now going to be our new line, or our new armhole. Okay, it looks very shallow, but that's because this is quite a fitted sleeve. Okay, so what we're going to do next is simply redraw these blocks. So I'm simply going to select this line, and then going to go to my cut tool and cut. So this is now separate. I'm then going to, with my big selection tool, I'm now going to, let's say, select the entirety of this block and also select that blue line. Let's just move it away slightly. Perfect. And let's just reconnect those lines. So I'm just going to simply, with my small selection tool, click and drag up until I meet that point. I'm then going to use my scissor tool, and I'm going to cut and cut. And then small selection tool, select that line and delete. And then going to select those 2 points, right click, join. Perfect. So that is our front block pretty much completed. Next, I'm going to go to the small selection tool. I'm going to click and drag up. I'm then going to go to my cut tool, cut, and then cut. And then let's go to small selection tool. Oh, we've lost it because it has a fill. Then going to get that line and delete it. We can also delete this point now because we no longer need it. And then let's just select those 2 points and then join. Perfect. So those are now our 2 blocks, or our new amended front block and back block. Let's just make those 2 lines black. So let's select those 2. Let's go to my eyedropper tool and then pull up the attributes of that pattern line. In fact, let's just make them one point. Okay, perfect. Next, so this is basically our finished off block. There is one thing, however, we need to do just to keep continuity, I guess. I'm simply going to click in my rulers here and drag across. I just want to realign these blocks with the grain line, okay? So I've just collected a ruler. We can do the same for the opposite side. Just collect that ruler, move it to that point. Let's get our big selection tool, select that whole block, go to my rotation tool, and then rotate back into position. Same with this one. Oh, this one's not grouped, so let's just grab all of that information. Let's go Object, Group. Let's then, my rotation tool, rotate around that corner. And there we go. Perfect. We can now get rid of my rulers, so let's select and delete, delete, delete. Okay, so this is now our finished close-fitting sleeve, back, front, and sleeve. Okay, so let's just rename this. Oops, hang on. Close-fitting sleeve. Let's go close-fitting sleeve. We might need to move these around a bit because I've added a bit of information. Let's just move all this down. There we go. Move that across a bit. There we go. It's always good to name your blocks. Same with this one. Let's just move this information down. Close-fitting sleeve. Lovely. Okay. Finished. So next, if you would like to learn how to add seam allowance to this block, and then obviously print it off using a multi-page PDF, or print it off on a multi-page PDF to then use at home, simply visit the bottom of this tutorial. You'll find links to those other tutorials. Otherwise, I hope you understood what we did here today, and yeah, thanks a lot. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.